Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom Bust channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today recapping our Week 15 victory. Is it Week 15 or is it 14? Anyway, victory against the Cleveland Browns. All right, not a whole lot to talk about. If we just want to start with what did we learn today, I can't say that I learned much new. I think, I can't really say there's anything new that I learned. I will say that what stood out to me is the defense. And again, I don't know. I haven't really taken the time to think about how to articulate this, but I want to always say the defense is well coached, but I can't really say that with the number of assignment mistakes that we make and other certain things that we've done. Now that's also mixed in with injuries that we had. So, it's easy for anybody to dismiss an argument and say, well, we were hurt, or dismiss that and say, well, we did this, or dismiss that and say we got all these turnovers. One thing that I will stand on completely is these turnovers are giveaways. We could go through them, and we have a handful that I could legitimately say were good plays or forced errors by us. The rest of them, just like today, bunch of bad plays. Now, the quarterback wasn't at fault for that Jalen Johnson interception. Judy dropped it. Jalen's in good position. He did what he had to do. So, like one person commented earlier a few weeks ago and said, they're opportunistic, like for sure. And really, when you break it down, interceptions for the most part are being opportunistic on bad decision making or bad throws by the quarterback. Now you have to be in position to make a play on it, which sometimes just falls right in your lap. Geno Smith looking at you, Kevin Byard. But other times you bait a quarterback and whatever. But either way, I think you could kind of look at it as being opportunistic. But for the most part, it's just been bad decisions that were easy plays for us, and I stand by that. And yes, you can keep saying, well, it kept on happening. And we kept playing bad offenses. So that is what it is. So going forward, especially in a playoff look, that's still not something that I'm like stamp of approval in terms of a strength of ours. That really means nothing to me. Honestly, it doesn't mean anything if you're the number one turnover team in the league any year going into the playoffs. Like those types of things are you watch the game and you see kind of what led to all that, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a matchup decision. And I'm not even talking about just round one, but again, when we're talking about the trajectory throughout a playoff run, that's not something that I would hang my hat on for the Bears in terms of defensive takeaways. So, other than that, offense, man, same stuff. And again, those are the things that are going to hurt you when you get into situations with teams that are going to capitalize on your mistakes and put up points, and B, they're not going to allow you to just not score or miss a bunch of possessions and still think you're going to get the ball back with enough time to score. Because you look at it going into the half and even going to the third, or obviously at the start of third, like you had these missed possessions and the game is still 14-0. Now, does it feel like the Browns have any momentum? No. Does it feel like you're in danger of losing the game? No. But the point is you still have a close game. Like, regardless of what you want to talk about momentum and stats, when it's 14-0 at the start of the third or the middle of the third or whatever, you have enough time on the clock, you have enough possessions, anything could happen. That's still a close game. And you can't just look at the result and be like, oh, well, it didn't happen, so it doesn't matter. Now, obviously, we have a long list of games where we can show you it does matter, not only with teams coming back, but games going down to the wire. And that's not the situation you want to put yourself in when you're actually trying to contend for a Super Bowl. All right, so yeah, nothing new there. And I said it in the community post, which again, I'll remind people, community should be activated. So you should be able to post. I haven't seen any yet, but I'll be looking for that. But in the community, I was talking about, I like Ben Johnson's scheme. I've been talking about that since he was with Detroit. I like the angles they set up. I like the motions and the formations. I like the way they teach the offensive line. But I still don't see them as a dominant thing because, like, yes, angles and all that, they do matter. But at the end of the day, when you get across a team that is just physically outmatching you or coming downhill or just really sound and aggressive, that stuff won't matter. And I'm not saying that Jonah and none of those guys are strong. Our line is kind of weird, to be honest, because Thuney is pretty strong, but he's not a mauler. And then Dahlman is pure agility. Jonah is a power guy. Darnell is athletic power guy. So some schemes, your right side, your power side, old school. Left side, more athletic. So fine, that works. And then left tackle, which apparently, actually, I forgot to mention this. I think it was last week I saw Theo in, and I thought he was still hurt. So apparently they just let Ozzie start, and I don't know that I'd agree with that from what I watched between those two. Ozzie has the most common issue with NFL tackles. He has slow feet. And so, with our scheme, we're 12 personnel all day. We do a ton of stuff to help out on the edges. So, Ben Johnson's never going to be afraid to help out a tackle, and that's cool. But, and it's not like a huge difference, but I just would not have thought Ozzie would be getting a nod over Theo. So that's a little tougher to grade. So our offensive line is, interesting, but it's not an Eagles where the calling card is the same across the board and we know how they're going to handle people. You could lead the league in rushing. You could lead the league in a lot of stuff. That doesn't necessarily mean you have the most dominant line. Do we have a good line? Yes. Great line? Sure. Now, I don't think it's a dominant line. And again, as I said in the post, that doesn't mean, anything for a specific matchup. But when you look at these things, you don't get to pick who you play. You don't get to pick the weather. So you always forecast for worst case scenario, especially when you got to go 3 games to get to the Super Bowl. And so what travels, as they always talk about, defense travels, this travels. What travels means something because that this isn't something that I'm just able to do in certain situations. This is what I'm able to do no matter if it's rain, sun, snow, if it's home, if it's away, if we're going up against that don't really matter anymore, but if we're going up against a star edge player, if we're going up against a star interior player, if we're going up against a star corner, like what travels, what can you hang your hat on? And that's what it's all about when you get into the playoffs. And I believe in the run scheme. I wouldn't necessarily say that our run game is dominant, where it's like no matter who we play, we're just going to run down their throats. I don't really feel that way. And then Caleb, it's been the same conversation. Now, one thing I do want to get ahead of, and I'm sure there's many things I always don't think are a big deal that turn into a big deal online. But one thing that I want to get ahead of, that was a terrible decision by Caleb to throw that ball into the end zone. Because there's only 3 options, and all of them are bad. Number 1, you actually tried to throw the ball away, and if that's the case, which I've seen Caleb do many times, throw the ball out the back of the end zone. If you are running into that position, throwing the ball away would be much easier to do to the sideline where you are, not to try to throw it out the back of the end zone. And I've seen him specifically on the move throw the ball out the back of the end zone when I never understand it. You literally just have to flick the ball out of bounds. That's like right next to you, 2 feet away. All you have to do. You do not have to throw the ball out the back of the end zone. I've seen him do this multiple times, and I always like, why do you do that? Why do you chuck the ball all the way down the field? I never understand why quarterbacks do that. It's the same thing if you throw it 1 yard ahead of you out of bounds. So, situation one, you were trying to throw the ball away, and that's just not the time to make that decision in terms of throwing it in that spot, because the ball clearly got tipped. You clearly did not have all the arm strength you believe you had, and the ball got tipped. All right, number 2, you actually were trying to throw that ball up for grabs. That's insane. Actually, it might just be 2 options. It might be a third. I don't remember. We'll see. But that's insane. I don't care. I do not care what anyone says. That was not a good decision. It was at least double covered, if not more. You throw it into a tight window in the end zone up against, one receiver who's not like a 6'5" leaper, and you're putting it up. Now in the end zone, that's one of these spots they're not going to give you the benefit of a doubt in terms of a underthrown interference call like you saw earlier, which really, or they didn't call it interference, but it was to DJ actually. It was underthrown on a go route, a double move, and they tripped up with each other. Taking that shot is different than throwing it up for grabs in the end zone like Caleb did on the rollout. Now, even if you're like, hey, I'm gonna just give him a chance, that wasn't the opportunity to do that. And then the ball placement wasn't great. If I don't care what anyone says, the tape was right there. The ball gets tipped right into DJ Moore's hands. If that ball is not tipped, more than likely it is headed out the back of the end zone. Now, again, as I said, you might have the strength to get it out of the back of the end zone, but you didn't have the placement to get it over the defender. A defender still made a play on it. Now, it worked out to your benefit, but that is not the decision you want to make. That was such a bad decision, and I'm sure Ben Johnson is not going to be happy about it. All right, so I think that's it with the offense. I'm not sure, but whatever. If you got questions or whatever, y'all put it in the comment section. So the Browns, I saved that for last. I know people want to hear the Bears stuff. So with the Browns, number 1, Myles Garrett is a dog, no pun intended, and I really thought Caleb was about to be the one. He was about to go in the record books, but I think Myles kind of got banged up a little bit, and then the game just kind of got out of hand. So, well, Myles Garrett, such a dog, and the thing that people are talking about now, but nobody really talked about in previous years, is that he's always doing this with a team that's always down. That is extremely tough to do, especially at the stature that he is, or at least his status, I should mean, because we know the chips and the double whatever. I don't like those stats because, yeah, anyway. But we know that they're going to do something to try to slow him down. And like you saw even today, and this is why I talk about, and I'm not going to get too deep into it because I get passionate about the pass rush topic. But as I keep saying, all sacks are not created equal. And All pass rushers are not created equal. Because you strung together 10 sacks out of a year, 11, 12 sacks, that does not make you an elite rusher. When you understand that you're going to get 2, maybe 3 or 4 true pass rush opportunities in a game most of the time, and you still put up crazy numbers, that means you are pass rushing at a high efficiency, and that's only for the elite guys, and I don't think people understand that. They see numbers and be like, oh, okay, cool. You don't understand. These guys are looping around, stunting, getting unblocked sacks, chase down sacks, coverage sacks. And that does not translate. When we talk about what travels, that doesn't travel. Because when you go up against certain people, you get certain situations, then you got no numbers that game. But a guy like a Myles Garrett, a true elite rusher, what TJ Watt used to be, like you can't stop that. He's going to be able to go on any type of situation. So credit to him. Hope he breaks the record for sure. And then Shedeur. Gotta talk about the Shedeur thing. Hey, fair is fair. Shedeur was out. Well, the offense was out there, but Shedeur was out there with 3 starting linemen out. 3. That is a huge deal. And the offensive line played terrible. As Bears fans, we should know that. We know what our defensive pass rush looks like. We know what our pressure numbers are. So for Shedeur to be under pressure, the O-line was playing terrible. And obviously there were times where that was also on Shedeur, but the O-line was bad. Not only bad in like physical one-on-one, but they were bad in communication and understanding their assignments. So that was not it. But even still, what I saw from Shedeur is what I've been saw. And what I saw even last week when everybody's going crazy to numbers, but you didn't watch the game to see the play-by-play. It's the same thing I've been seeing. And what's funny is the thing that annoys me the most is the thing that the Shedeur jock riders are always claiming, which is he's being treated unfair. He's being treated differently. But yet, your evaluation of Shedeur is different than everybody. But now, also, that's not unique to Shedeur. But usually, it comes from a fan base. Or the only other one I can think of is maybe Lamar, where you got all these random Lamar fans who aren't Ravens fans. But usually, it's a fan base defending their quarterback. Okay, whatever. They're not going to be logical. But for the most part, you always hear that same thing. Like, you talk about this quarterback, or whether it's Joe Burrow and his defense. Oh, well, Lamar, the defense ain't playing as well as it used to be. But you just said last year that's not an excuse for Joe Burrow. Y'all tried to trash him. Oh, well, the offensive line didn't give that excuse to Caleb. Like, people, that's the part that annoys me. So it was written in the fact, I should say, the fact that I also said this in the summer before he was even drafted, that this was always going to be the case. It was always going to be the case. No matter what happens with Shedeur, it's somebody else's fault. Or I should say after he was drafted. The narratives were already set in place. So that's the annoying part. But watching Shedeur. Now, me, as you know, I acknowledge all the context, and we look at it in football terms, like not like the whole team just was not there to play. They were not really there to play. But Shedeur has some things that he's good at, and he has a lot of things that he needs to improve. He looks like an average quarterback. A quarterback that either would not be your starter or that you would take as more of a project player knowing that you got to have time to develop. And so him and Cam Ward, as I said last year before or during the draft season, those aren't first round prospect quarterbacks, and that is a terrible quarterback class. And so obviously there's much more that came into this whole discussion, but for the most part, when we're looking at football, this is why it was so annoying, is because we're arguing about the merits and the fairness of a group of prospects that aren't good. Like, it is like, well, you would compare him to who's in the draft class, but they're quarterbacks. If they were not quarterbacks, if Shedeur and Cam Ward and Jackson Dart and all of these other guys were receivers, this would not have been a discussion. Nobody would even care. But because they're quarterbacks, now we feel they have to go in the first round. They don't have to do anything. I mean, you would have think the Kenny Pickett draft class would have taught you that. And shout out to Malik Willis for the good games he had when he had to play with Green Bay. But these people was talking about him being the third overall pick. That man went in like the fourth or fifth round. What was it? Matt Correa, whatever his name was, not in the league no more. Or Matt Corral. I don't even think he made it 2 years in the league. Kenny Pickett, one of the people y'all was calling trash and saying that Shedeur should be better than. Like, so we could have had a situation where we say, oh no, they're quarterbacks, they all got to go in the first round. Or how come y'all didn't take Malik Willis here? And we could have did that. And the Steelers took Kenny Pickett in the 20s, just like Jackson Dart, as the one prospect with somewhat potential to be a first round prospect. And he flamed out. And we'll see what Jackson Dart does. So miss me with all the back and forth about Shedeur and blah, blah, blah. It was a terrible quarterback class. I don't care if you're the best or the worst. And that's what I say this for years, but because it was Shedeur, obviously it blew up to a whole different level. And because he went in the fifth round, it blew up to a different level. But I've been saying this for years. These is just common things that people don't understand about the draft. It's almost like a market. And just people just don't understand that. You're the best of a bad class. That doesn't make you a good quarterback. So let's say Shedeur went number one. He would still be bad. So, I mean, we saw it today. We saw the issues, a lot of young quarterback issues. And even still, you're going to get people that jump on, well, he had the first team reps and he didn't get to play with the ones in training camp. And that does not change his skill set. All right. So that's it for me. Go down the comment section. Let me know what you think. I know people probably going to ask about the Packers. Packers are playing right now. We'll talk about that later. As we get closer to the week to see what's what. But put your comments and thoughts about this game, everything going forward. Share it around, get the convo started, thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.